Hello and welcome back. Today we are diving into membrane structure. Now, the last time we had notes, it was all about all of the structures within a cell, but now we're going to really just zone in, focus in on just the cell membrane. We're going to focus on its structure, what it does, why it's important, why you should care about it. So, right off the bat, let's talk about what it does. Okay, the plasma membrane is another word for the cell membrane, but basically its main job is to hold the cell together and control what goes in and out of the cell. That is what we're going to focus on a lot of, especially in the next set of notes, is transport from in to out of the cell, and then bringing things into the cell as needed. The plasma membrane also protects the cell. It allows the cell to be recognized and recognize other, whether it be nutrients or waste products or other cells even. It just allows the cell to recognize outside things. It binds to other cells and molecules. Remember that cells need water, oxygen, nutrients, ions, salts, sugars, all that kind of stuff. And so it is with the help of the plasma membrane that it can bind to those other cells and molecules, and it is a site for biochemical reactions like the use of enzymes. This cell membrane is made up of a phospholipid bilayer. So let's break that down. What is a phospholipid? Well, phospho is a phosphate, lipid is fat, bi means two, right? The prefix bi means two, and then layer is a layer, right? So it is a bilayer, two-part layer that is made up of lipids and phosphates, okay? So one phospholipid is composed of a hydrophilic phosphate head. This red circle is a water-loving, that's what hydrophilic means, phosphate head, and two hydrophobic hydrocarbon tails. These are fatty tails, hydrocarbon tails. When they come together, the tails face each other, and then the phosphate heads are on the outside because the outside is it will touch an aqueous solution, and these hydrophobic tails don't like that. Okay, when they're surrounded by water, the phospholipids will automatically form a liposome, which is a sphere, so that none of the tails are exposed to the water. Okay, so again, the phosphate heads are on the outside, the tails are on the inside, and when exposed to water, it naturally will form a circle so that all those tails are always protected from the water. When we refer to the cell membrane, it is in the way of a fluid mosaic model. Okay, this is the structure of the cell membrane, and what this means is that it's flexible, it's adaptable, and it's constantly in motion. So those phospholipids that we were just sort of talking about, they have freedom of movement and they can move around each other. So it is not a fixed position, and it's not super like stiff and structural. It's really flexible. The individual phosphates of the phospholipid bilayer are attached to each other by a weak attraction, so they are connected to each other, but it's such a weak attraction that it can move around each other and those bonds can break. But when you have enough of those phosphates attached to each other by that weak attraction, the cumulative effect is actually a very strong membrane. It's pretty tough to actually tear a plasma membrane because its fluid properties just sort of allow it to reform around whatever tear it is. So even if it does tear, it's not going to stay torn. So again, this is your phosphate head, your hydrocarbon tails, right? Your phosphate head is water-loving, your tails are scared of water, they don't like water, and so let's talk about all of these other things that are in a cell membrane. This like purple, what is that, like an oval? I don't know. This is an integral protein. So this has enzyme sites for chemical reaction. It also has pumps within it for active transport, which allows certain molecules to come in and out of the cell. This can help with maintaining homeostasis and allowing certain ions, nutrients, whatever, to be in balance. These blue structures are glycoproteins. They combine with carbohydrates to make chemical receptors. So this helps with recognizing other cells or other structures around them. This green and dark green protein is called a channel protein. This allows molecules to slide through the membrane. These are used for structures that are too big to slide naturally through the phospholipid bilayer, but don't need really energy or anything, so they can slide through this larger opening through the cell membrane. These sort of golden rod, like little ovals here, are cholesterol, and they affect the membrane fluidity at different temperatures. So cholesterol can change whether it's like really, really flexible or a little stiffer depending on the temperature it's exposed to. And then these light pink proteins are called peripheral proteins. They act as receptors and help with recognizing other cells as well. The membrane is called selectively permeable. That means that some materials can come in or out, but it will select what specific materials can come in and out. So it's like a bouncer at a club or something, right? It lets some people in, but not all the people. It's very particular about what comes in, okay? Some molecules will pass through the plasma membrane really easily or through a protein channel, like I mentioned previously, and those are things like water or small ions. But other molecules need energy to get them through because they're either larger or the balance is off, and so you need energy to sort of force those molecules to go in or out of the cell. And of course, if the molecules are too big, then they need to use proteins as well to get them in or out of the cell. This one was a really quick set of notes. We're going to dive into this idea of like letting things in and out of the cell via membrane transport next time. So I'm proud of you, and I'll see you in class.